tell us a bit about the human rights situation in Colombia today. We've heard a lot in Europe about the conflict and the peace process. Well, how would you describe the situation at this moment?
At this moment, I can tell you that it's critical. We are talking about a humanitarian and human rights crisis at the moment. I could give you a couple of examples. The massacres, internal displacement, and the homicide rates had just increased in the last couple of years, and especially since last year. And as well, the rate of violations against human rights defenders, killings and threats and stigmatization and criminalization, etc. It's one of the most worrying issues in Colombia at the moment. Last year, 172 human rights offenders were killed. This is according to the Ombudsman office in Colombia. You have different records, but for example, frontline defenders categorized Colombia as the most dangerous country for human rights defenders.
What can Europe do? We're so far away. How can we make a difference to that situation for those who are fighting for human rights in Colombia?
So you are far away geographically, but politically you have been very close to peace building in Colombia. Since 20 years at least, the European Union has been one of the most important stake actors in peace building in the territories. There is a very important initiative that is called Peace Laboratories. And you are also one of the most important stakeholders in the peace agreement between the government and the FARC, which was signed in 2016. It's right now in the process of implementation. And you also have contributed with a trust fund, so millions of euros to help to execute different programs in order to implement the peace agreement. So you are very close to peace in Colombia.
European citizens always want to know that their money is well spent. What can the officials here do? What is it specifically that you want them to do and say to the Colombian government at this moment?
To the Colombian government, a very strong message, and I'm sure that it has heard it already, that civil society in Colombia is extremely active and that it's also backed by the international civil society. So we are here in a scenario such as Brussels, pointing out all the problems in the implementation of the peace agreement, all the aggressive measures in the peace agreement, all the measures that are not making possible correct implementation, and all the backwards situations and measures in terms of human rights and guarantees for the defense of human rights offenders. So the message is that people in Colombia, the communities and the organizations, of course, are not alone. And we, the international civil society, are actively denouncing this.
So what next?
What's next? We need a strong positioning from the European Union as a bloc and from the different European Union institutions. In 2016, we counted with a resolution backing up the peace process in Colombia from the European Parliament. It was backed up by pretty much all the political groups. We would like to have a very strong commitment like this one with the new legislation, with the new parliament that it's arriving. I would like as well that the European Union as a bloc or different European states remind to the Colombian government that peace is a state issue and that they are stakeholders of an international agreement and that there are responsibilities, and not only political but also economical, because you have contributed very generously, thank you, with trust fund, and it was given in the context of a certain accord, which at the moment it's been changed by different measures, and also with all these political acts that go against what was negotiated. So we'll ask also to the European Union that controls that political change in the implementation also taking into consideration the funding. I mean, if Colombia wants the money, the Colombian government, it should respect the agreement as it was signed, which are actually the terms in which the European Union agreed to provide a trust fund.
Catherine Fior, EU reporter. Carlos, yesterday and today, a number of Colombian civil society organisations have been in Brussels to brief MEPs and others on the deteriorating situation in Colombia, with a huge increase in forced displacements, murder of civil rights activists, and just a general failure to implement the peace agreement, especially since the arrival of the new president. The EU and its member states established a trust fund to help Colombia implement that peace agreement. If that's not happening, can the EU take any action? Can it suspend funding? Can it launch a discussion with the government? What action can you take, given that the EU has played a very important role in this peace process? Thank you.
I mean, on Colombia, I would need to check if there are any particular details on this visit. I can simply say that we continue to deliver strong support when it comes to the peace process in Colombia, and we are working also with other partners, including the UN, and at the same time, we continue to work with human rights defenders and investing in the number of reforms that are necessary to actually implement this deal, the peace deal that was reached after years of suffering into concrete benefits for the people. There has been no change in this position, and this is also something that we have had regular exchanges with, including on the level of the High Representative, directly with the current Colombian authorities.
Follow up.
You said something about having contact with the Colombian authorities. I mean, they obviously aren't responding. Can the EU take any further action? I mean, that trust fund that's been set up has been set up for the implementation of that peace programme. If that's not happening, can the EU take action? Can it suspend the funds temporarily?
Listen, the implementing a peace agreement is always very challenging. We continue to be focused on this and bringing the benefits to the people. Obviously, the rules that are included as part of the implementation, as part of this, how this trust fund is turned into concrete benefits, are very much something that bounds us, and we continue to monitor the projects that are being implemented as part of this support, but I would not speculate beyond this point.